Hello, this is Ish. And if you've been following my content for a while, you might have realized that I haven't been posting for over a year. So prior to taking a hiatus, I was in a period of expansion where I was creating a lot of these self-help related videos and growing my channel and focusing on material things in the world and expanding. And an equal part of expanding in the world, life gave me this opportunity to contract inwards. So I had a really long period of withdrawing from the world and going within, meditating more. And I'll be sharing with you some of the insights I've learned during this period. And I have my notes here so I don't ramble on. But the first thing I started to realize was not attaching my happiness to the external things in the world. So I experienced a disillusionment with the world. And this is interesting because this is something I had read about as a practicing yogi, about this concept of detachment. And this is found in the Yoga Sutras, for example. In verse 1.12 of the Yoga Sutras, yogic sage Patanjali mentions that yoga is a practice of abhyasa, which is the actual practices you do, like meditation, the yoga poses, the asanas, and so on, and also Vairagya, which is the dispassion. So here you are letting go of your attachment to the worldly things of the world and having some distance and cultivating within and internally. Now, it's one thing to read about detachment and dispassion, but another thing to actually experience this, because what led me to experience this is I would find and attach to things of the world. So I would try to find pleasure in different jobs or relationships or different things that are going on in my life and try to find happiness there. But as you know, nothing in life is very stable. So it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And your happiness can also fluctuate as well if you try to attach your happiness onto the various things in the world. And because nothing in this world is stable, so it's always changing. So if you try to attach your happiness to it, you'll be at the mercy of the different events in your life. So here there's more of a tuning inwards to more of the spiritual life and looking inwards because it tends to be more stable, a stable place of happiness. And during this period of my life where I was really growing outwards and then I had grown attached to all these things and then kind of just let all that go, I experienced a sort of depression because I had erased everything away, but there was no joy really present. And this is something that spiritual practitioners refer to as the dark night of the soul. And this is where you have let go of finding pleasure in the world. So, whereas before you were finding happiness and pleasure through the sense objects, so maybe entertainment and various things that stimulate the senses, here you've let go of that, but you have not quite found the joys that come with the spiritual life yet. So, the spiritual pleasure hasn't really been experienced. And this makes you feel a bit more depressed in this moment, kind of like a spiritual depression. So Ram Dass, the late spiritual teacher, had a quote on this, which I really liked. And he said that the dark night of the soul is where you've lost the flavor of life, but you have not yet gained the fullness of divinity. And another example that a teacher had given me is think of it like a monkey swinging from one branch to the next. Here you've let go of the branch of the material world, but you've not quite grasped the next branch of the spiritual life and spiritual pleasures. So you're kind of in this limbo period and it feels like you're falling. So it doesn't feel good. So what I find helpful during these stages is to practice more of the blissful type of meditations, so shamatha meditations, calm abiding practices, or you can start to practice the jhanas or learn about that. So these are different meditation absorption states that you can immerse your attention into that provide a very profound source of spiritual joy. And you can practice a lot of loving kindness meditation during this time. And then meeting with different teachers and listening to various talks are also helpful as well. So it can be a challenging time during this period. So it can be helpful to get advice from different monks or teachers that you study with and starting to experience some of the blissful pleasures from within a bit more through meditation or whatever spiritual practice you do. And the next thing that I've started to notice more is navigating the cycles of expansion and contraction. So, another famous meditation teacher by the name of Shinzen Young talks about how there's the forces of expansion and contraction in life. So, in life, there are seasons, and there's also cycles within your life where you'll notice there are periods where you feel more expansive. So, this is like yang energy of going out. And then there are also periods which you go inwards. So, this is more of the yin or contractive quality. And you may cycle through this and get different insights from each of these stages and cycles. And in any kind of journey, you this requires an evolution in your consciousness, where ideally this will happen in a long period of time. And in our Western world, where we want success and fast success, we may think that we want a lot of expansion right away and have this continuous expansion without any kind of contraction, any kind of defeat, losses, or looking inwards. We just want things to go up, 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 up all the time. And while you steadily receive from the universe through expansion, and this may happen if you're doing, self-help type work or expansion type work, you'll also get tested with periods of contraction. And this is the universe life's test to see how you handle it. So you can think of it like a huge tree, and the branches of the tree and the foliages is like the expansion side of things. So you're growing upwards. And the roots are the contraction. So this is how firm and grounded you are. And how far you go upwards needs to be equally grounded by the root system as well. So rooted by how you are internally. And these universal tests or spiritual tests can really ask you and test you to see how you can receive from the world without being attached to things. And how can you be equanimous with whatever is happening? Can you develop the mind as different things are coming in and out of your life, not be attached, so letting go? And you also develop spiritual strength as well. So you start to look at where is your motivation or orientation coming from? Are you advancing to get something in the world, or is it through sharing or giving? So what is your motivation? How are you orienting? So these are all different things that come into your awareness. Now, when we look into Eastern spiritual disciplines, it is almost always focused on the root system rather than focusing on the branches or how far you're expanding upwards. So it's really focusing on how grounded you become, how equanimous you can become, and it's a lot of internal cultivation rather than the external. So you can see this in texts like the Tao Te Ching, for example, the classical Taoist text. In the verse 16 of the Tao Te Ching, the sage Lao Tzu says that, like flowers and leaves, they grow, flourish, and then return to the root. Returning to the root brings peace. And a commentary from Suche says that if you don't return to your nature, even if you still your actions and your thoughts, you won't be still. So mentally, you won't be still. So what this means is that as you continue through your journey, if you're ambitious and you want more and you're constantly desiring things in the world, your mind will continue to become restless, and you start to invite more complexities and calamities in your life. Now, going further with the whole expansion side of things, one thing I actually used to teach a lot was manifestation and law of attraction type content. And I was really focusing on that and how to get ahead. And sure, when you do follow a lot of these principles, you do receive uh, and get the things that you want, but you also neglect things like contentment in the present moment. And you also proliferate more desires, because when you have a mind that is constantly seeking, you're never happy. You just want more and more and more and more. And you create more attachments and your life becomes more complex, as opposed to being happy with whatever you have at the moment. So this is not talked about as much in manifestation circles, but one of the downsides of fast success is you're not ready to handle the scrutiny, the attention. You may become attached to the objects that you receive. More people are depending on you now because as you grow, you start to take on more responsibilities. So how will you handle that? And the universe says, okay, you want all these things? Okay, here you go, and you have it. But like I mentioned with the tree analogy, you want a strong root system. And prior to my hiatus, I was expanding really fast and I was growing this channel and doing all these things, but my root system wasn't strong enough to handle all the complexities that came with it. And also, my orientation in the world was more self-focused and self-serving rather than focusing on giving. Those are just some of the things I've kind of experienced to the last year. And I hope some of these concepts also make sense. So just kind of an introduction to some of the spiritual talks I'll be mentioning in future videos. So just sharing what I learned just on my journey, and I hope it helps you. So excited to be back and excited to make more content. Thanks.